Hello and welcome to the Learning Love Podcast, brought to you by the Learning Love Foundation, helping people transform how they love, live, and lead. I'm your host, Dr. Mark A. Hicks, and I want to thank you for joining us today as we spend some time learning love.
Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. And one of the questions that I get a lot is people asking, how do we know if we are living in a dysfunctional relationship? Because every relationship has conflict sometimes. Every relationship has difficult moments, disagreements, arguments, fights, conflict. Now, there's certain obvious answers to that. If there is physical violence, if there is abuse of some kind, well, obviously that's dysfunctional. But there are more subtle things that sometimes creep into our families, our relationships, our marriages, that we don't really notice, that we think are normal. And it's very likely we think they're normal because it's the way our family always did it. And it is actually highly dysfunctional. I'm going to give you one of those today. One of those subtle things that most people don't notice, but actually contribute to making your relationship dysfunctional. And it is this: if we are in an argument, in a conflict of some kind, the way to resolve that conflict is to take actions to resolve it. Now that sounds silly, but many people don't. Instead, many people have a strategy that believes time will resolve that conflict. That if we just give it time, let's just let it blow over, they'll get over it. Let's just let it lie for a while. And if we have the idea that time resolves conflicts, it is a telltale sign that we are living in a dysfunctional relationship. Not necessarily an abusive one or highly toxic, but we are not in a functional relationship if we are not resolving conflicts. By resolving, I mean things like apologizing or making amends or clarifying, bringing some explanation, asking questions, asking for clarification, listening, trying very hard to understand the other person's point of view, what they're saying and where they're coming from and how they feel, and sharing how we feel. Having those kinds of conversations, not accusing, not rehashing the fight, not bringing it up so we can fight again, but bringing some clarifications and some apologies and making amends in some way are ways of resolving conflicts. When we don't practice those and we decide that time is the universal healer, that as long as we give it time, it'll blow over, we are usually living in a dysfunctional relationship, and that can cost us mightily. I know people who have lost relationships, that their relationship has ended, that someone has cut off a relationship with a family member or with a friend, or people have divorced, and one person doesn't understand why. They don't get it. Yeah, there were fights, there were arguments, there were disagreements, but they didn't really listen to what the other person was saying in the fight. They were thinking too much about what they wanted to say and how they could get some shots in and how they could bring some stuff up. And they didn't really listen to what was being said to them. And so they have no idea what the person was mad about. And then after so many fights, after so many conflicts, a person eventually cut off the relationship. They were done. They walked away. And I've known people that were highly confused by that because they didn't know why the other person was mad. They just thought they were having a fight like everybody fights. And then they reverted to, well, they'll get over it. It'll blow over. Just give it some time. And I've talked to many people over the years that were upset because relationships ended, or they were distant. And when I tried to ask them about it, they would immediately go to how long things had been cut off or how long things have been distant. Well, it's been a year, they would say. It's been over a year. It's been 5 years. You would think it would be over by now. It's been over 6 months that this happened. I don't know why they are still holding on to this, why they're holding such a grudge. It's been almost a year now. And they will always be able to name the time that there has been a separation or a distance or a that the relationship was cut off. They can name the time, but they can't tell you why. It's as if just out of the blue, no reason whatsoever, they were just gone. Well, were you fighting? Well, yeah, we had some fights and things got kind of bad there and some stuff was said. Well, what was said? Oh, I don't know. I really don't know what was said, but it's been a long time ago. But it's been over a year. You would think they'd be over it by now. And we just keep going back to that time. Time does not resolve conflict. As a matter of fact, studies show that time enhances conflict. That if you want to mend a relationship after an argument, after a conflict of some kind, the less time there is between the actual argument and the apology, the greater the chances of mending that relationship. When someone comes almost immediately and says, that didn't go well, I need to redo that. I need to say that again in a different way because I really botched that, or I'm really sorry we just had that fight. And can we resolve this and take action to resolve it? The less time there is between the conflict and the resolution, the easier it will be. Time makes it more difficult. It is exactly the opposite from what most people are assuming that are in these kind of dysfunctional relationships. People who assume that time heals those wounds, that people get over it, that people will just put it aside after a while, that it will just all come out in the wash, as the old Southern saying goes. It'll all come out in the wash. That is a telltale sign of family dysfunction. If we think people are just going to get over it. Now, that is reinforced quite a lot because in reality, people have gotten over things. People don't end relationships very easily. They don't walk away or set boundaries or push friends or family away easily. That takes a lot. And so probably if you believe people will just get over it if you mistreat them, or if there's a fight, if there's a conflict of some kind, that people will get over it, just give it some time, that has probably been reinforced quite a bit for you because that probably has happened over and over again. People do not easily end relationships that mean something to them, especially family, especially marriages or parent-child relationships or with a sibling or with a very close friend. They don't end those things easily. It takes a lot of hardship. It takes a lot of emotional pain to end a relationship or to set strong boundaries and distance in a relationship. That is hard to do when a person means a lot to you and there is a kinship there, a family relationship there. And so people do just get over it. They'll put it aside. They'll quote unquote forget about it. Now, I put that in quotes because people don't forget about it. It's still there. They still remember it. They still feel it, but they act as if nothing happened. And that will be a very common pattern in a family. People will act as if nothing happened. People will act as if they got over it. They will go back and be the happy family again, putting everything aside over and over and over and over again until they don't. And that's the problem. There is a line. There always is. There always is a line in relationships that people will build up to. And what confuses a lot of folks that don't understand this, that don't really have the emotional understanding of how these things work, is the final conflict, the final argument, the final fight that took place might be relatively insignificant compared to some of the knockdown, drag out, horrible things that happened previously. It might not be that big a deal. It might be something small, but it was the last straw. It was that final thing. It may not have been significant in the scheme of things. And that's where people lie confused. I don't even know why they cut off the relationship. We had this little dust up. It wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't anything significant. It wasn't anything big. No horrible things got said. There was not any violence or anything involved in it. I don't know. It was just some small little thing, and then they were gone. They just cut it off. I don't know why. Well, that was the last straw. There were many, many, many things that lead up to that. And so if you're on the side of thinking, well, people will get over it, and you've seen them do it many, many, many times, be careful, because there will come a time, if you are in a dysfunctional relationship with lots of conflict, lots of fighting, terrible things get said, there's, cheap shots and personal attacks, and then people go on as if nothing happened. There is a line at some point. So be careful. People will walk away from relationships eventually. And that idea that, well, it's been a year, it's been 5 years, or whatever number you have, it's not going to resolve anything. So if you expect that time always resolves conflict, I want you to know that's just not true. In fact, it can add to it. The quicker you resolve things, the easier it's going to be, and you actually have to take action to resolve them. That is what healthy, emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent people will always take actions to resolve conflicts, not just give them time, not just brush them aside. Time does not heal conflicts. And if you are on the side of someone who that you walked away, you were the one that ended the relationship, and you would like to take a shot at resolving it, understand they are going to expect you to come back as if nothing ever happened, like you always did. It doesn't matter if it's been 1 month, 6 months, 12 years. They will expect you to come back and act as if nothing ever happened, because that's how they resolve conflict. They just go on like nothing ever happened. And so if you have cut off a relationship and you have a thought that you would like to somehow begin anew, you're going to have to make that very clear. And you're probably going to need to get counseling or some sort of intervention there if it's been a long time, because people get very set in this idea that time will heal it. And so if you come back into that relationship, just expect they are going to expect you to come back as if nothing ever happened. They will think, okay, finally, it took a year, it took 5 years, it took 12 years, but she finally came back. He finally came back. And now we can just go on like nothing ever happened. We now have resolved this. No, you haven't. And so come back, if you do, with a clear indication. We are not going back to the way things were. We have to resolve this and stick to it. That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard. But if you wish to come back in the relationship, understand many people have that mentality, and that's what you're going to be fighting against. That they will expect you to just come back as if nothing ever happened. So here is the thing we all need to understand. I've said it several times. I'm going to say it one last time. Time does not heal conflict. Taking actions to resolve the conflict are what heals conflict. Time never does. And that's my thoughts today as we are looking to build those healthy, happy, thriving relationships that we all really want. I want to invite you to go to our website, learninglovefoundation.com. The Learning Love Foundation sponsors this show. We have a lot of good things going. And on that website, you can also find a link to purchase my book, learning love, building a life that matters, and healthy relationships that last. Thank you so much for listening today. Until next week, love well, everyone.